Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today's topic is by request. Do emotions have to cause symptoms? In other words, is it inevitable, right? So, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Hopefully the cicadas are not bothering you. Had a couple of people really freaking out about it on my how to calm down a highly sensitive nervous system. Some people going, I can't listen. So I apologize. They don't seem to be too loud right now. Beautiful day again. Crazy thunderstorm last night. Crazy one. Type of thing where you see the flash and you hear the noise at the same time. Growing up as a kid, they used to say, when you see the flash, start counting. 1, 2, 3. If you get to 3, that means the storm's 3 miles away. Last night, flash noise instant, so the lightning was right around. Not sure what was going on, but fortunately the power stayed up and all good. But it was a heck of a storm, middle of the night. So, do emotions have to cause symptoms, right? Let's put this in context. We are referring to, if you're new to the channel, something called tension myositis syndrome. Dr. Sarno called it that. TMS, tension myoneural syndrome, also involved the nerves, later called the mind-body syndrome. He figured this stuff out in the 70s, 80s, and practiced medicine until, I don't know, probably about 7-8 years ago, when he finally passed. But he really created an awareness, and he wrote a few books, an awareness that the brain can create pain, in his mind, to distract us from repressed emotions, primarily anger and rage. I believe he's right. The brain can absolutely create symptoms to distract, or in my view, protect us from these negative emotions that are getting close to bubbling up to the surface. So I believe he was absolutely spot on what was going on. So as a result, there's a lot of people who have, read his books or participated in various TMS approaches that believe that, have come to the conclusion that whenever I feel emotional, I get symptoms. And in some cases, it's absolutely because that's their experience. When I get really angry, boom, my symptoms flare. When I get really sad, boom, my symptoms flare. Comment below if that's been your experience. But here's the deal. The real question is, does that have to happen? Is it inevitable? And my answer is absolutely does not have to happen. It's not inevitable. The reason that can happen is because the brain has at some point decided that certain emotions are unacceptable, scary, dangerous, overwhelming. And as a result, the subconscious brain is trying to protect us from things that it perceives as dangerous. So if you grew up in an environment where emotions were off limits, don't you dare feel them, share them, express them, because that makes you a bad person, weak, broken, crazy, out of control, right? Many of us have been raised that way. Kids are meant to be seen, not heard. I'll give you something to cry about. So we've got this lifelong set of lessons that emotions are bad. And if you've ever expressed your emotions vigorously with somebody that you know or you're in a relationship with, friendship or romantically, and there was blowback, meaning they reacted quite negatively, there was more evidence that, emotions are bad. I better not express my emotions because that has social consequences. Can end relationships, friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships. So we've got all of these data points that say emotions are bad. And then when we get highly emotional, our brain perceives that as dangerous, and can turn on or increase the intensity of symptoms. So what I've really done is I've started calling it perceived danger pain or perceived danger symptoms. And it really means that when the brain creates symptoms or pain, it is literally a perceived danger response. And I like that word because it's a little more encompassing. So the brain is creating symptoms in response to something it perceives as dangerous. So I think that's a really good term to think about while you're having symptoms. My brain is responding to perceived danger with symptoms or an increase in symptoms. If symptoms go down, the brain is responding to the perception of safety. We're okay. It's as simple as that. And if you pay attention to how you're feeling while symptoms are going up or down, notice, do you feel more safe sometimes and therefore you feel better? And do you feel more freaked out, more in danger other times and symptoms are up? Pay attention. You're going to see a correlation. It may not be obvious all the time, but it's pretty apparent when you start looking at it under the umbrella of perceived danger. So, is it inevitable that symptoms go up every time you have emotions, or some of the emotions that have been labeled bad emotions? Frankly, we could probably stand to do by reframing emotions as none of them being positive or negative. They're just emotions. They have no meaning other than the meaning you give to them. So is sadness a bad or negative emotion? No, it's just how you feel when something makes you sad. How about anger? Is that a bad emotion, a negative emotion? Some people assign it that way. But hey, anger is a justified thing. Somebody comes up and smacks you in the face, you're supposed to get angry. Are you telling me that your response is negative? You're supposed to just smile and, hey, thanks for hitting me. No, emotions are neither good nor bad, but we've been taught that they're bad. As a result, the brain has learned that they're dangerous, and so it attempts to protect us from emotions sometimes. But it is not inevitable, nor does it have to stay that way, even if that is your current experience. And I know this because many people have reframed what emotions mean, that they don't really mean anything. It's just something you experience. And when you experience it without judging yourself harshly for it, and without ruminating on the story behind the emotion, the emotions can come and go fairly quickly. Now, some of them take a little bit longer to come and go because some of the emotions are a little bit more energetically charged, right? But inevitably, if you're not ruminating on the story, the emotions will eventually pass if you allow yourself to experience them. So it's pretty important to understand that emotions are not, in fact, dangerous. And if you are afraid to feel your emotions because you think your symptoms are going to increase, I'd like you to reframe that and say that's not how it needs to continue. Yes, that may have been your experience so far, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Look, I've been out of chronic pain for 14 years or so, and my numbers are really bad because I really wasn't taking notes and writing down on the calendar when things happen. But I haven't really had any chronic symptoms for 14 years. And I can get plenty emotional, but I don't need to hurt. See, that's the thing. Got a video called Life Can Be Lifey, but You Don't Have to Hurt. Thank you, Ingrid, one of my group coaching clients. She coined that phrase. And stress is not the problem. It's fear of stress. It's fear of the emotions. That's the problem. Because fear of the stress, fear of the emotions, fear of, I'm going back to work and I don't know if I can handle that, and that's going to cause an increase in my symptoms. That's more of a problem. That story is more of a problem than the actual activity of going back to work. So, it's all fear-driven. It's all based on the brain's perception that something dangerous is going on. So, do emotions have to hurt? No, not at all. Now, I don't think we need to go back and dig up all of our past traumas and feel them, process them, release them, right? I'm not trained in trauma work, and I'm sure there are cases where that level of trauma work with a trained trauma-informed specialist or a therapist is a good thing. But what I have found repeatedly is that oftentimes spending time on that trauma just re-traumatizes us and our symptoms can get worse. So as it relates to ending chronic symptoms or pains, is it necessary to deal with the old traumas? And what I'm finding more and more with the people I'm working with is it's not necessary. I spent a long time, a lot of years, looking to try to find that long-lost trauma experience. And sure, growing up, we've all had some. Never seemed to move the needle as far as my back pain and sciatica. Safety does. So if you want to get well and have emotions cease to be a major trigger for your symptoms increasing or coming on, decide that they don't have to. Because as long as you go, oh no, I'm getting sad, I'm going to hurt more. Those are literally brain instructions. Your brain goes, oh no, she's afraid of the emotions. I guess they're dangerous. We better do something about that. Let's increase the symptoms. So just because that may have been what was going on at the start of the symptoms, it doesn't mean that it has to happen. We can literally teach the brain that emotions do not need to create symptoms or increase them. Well, how do we do that? Allowing yourself to feel the symptoms, or not the symptoms, the emotions, without judgment and without the story that says emotions are dangerous, right? Eventually, the brain will say, wow, look at all the intense emotions Dan's been feeling. Look at them all. Nothing bad happened. I guess these emotions are not truly dangerous. And the brain shifts its perspective that, okay, he's feeling emotions, nothing bad's happening. They must not be dangerous. Therefore, the subconscious brain will decide it doesn't need to protect us from them or distract us from those emotions. So we literally teach the brain not to turn on symptoms by actually allowing yourself to feel the emotions, so the brain comes to its own conclusion that emotions are safe. And if you are afraid to allow yourself to feel the emotions because in the past they've created symptoms, shift your perspective. Shift your expectations. Getting emotional does not have to hurt us physically on top of the emotional pain. And look, I'm not minimizing the emotional pain of living life. We often have quite lifey things going on. All sorts of things. I'm not going to list them. I don't want to trigger anybody. But I'm sure you know there's many things in your life that are highly emotional. But again, they don't have to continue to create symptoms or pain. They don't have to continue increasing your symptoms and pain. It may have done that in the past, but we can literally teach the brain that it's not inevitable. And by being very clear with ourselves that they don't have to cause us to hurt more or have more symptoms, and by allowing ourselves to experience them without judgment, without getting lost in the stories over and over, we're literally teaching the brain that emotions are safe. And so if you're getting emotional and you're worried about symptoms spiking up, literally say, it's okay to be sad. I'm allowed to be sad. Sadness is a good thing. It's necessary. It's how we were made to be. Right? Being sad is a normal part of being a human. So don't judge yourself as doing life wrong if you're sad or even depressed. Fear. Let's feel it. If you're feeling fearful of something, of your symptoms, allow yourself to feel it without judgment, without assigning this belief that feeling a little bit afraid of symptoms is a horrible thing. And I get how at least the fear emotion can be kind of contradictory in the guise of perceived danger. You're allowed to feel fear, but don't live in it all day long. Give yourself a limit. Say, all right, I'm going to feel fear. going out to a concert that's going to involve more standing. All right, a little nervous about that, but I'm going to choose to focus on the concert, enjoying myself, reminding myself I'm actually good. If the fear comes along, you can be, hey brain, shh, I'm not doing anything dangerous. I'm enjoying a concert, for example. So you see how this stuff all kind of works together? If perceived danger is what creates or increases symptoms, it's our job to teach this overprotective brain that the things it's perceiving as dangerous are not, in fact, dangerous. That's movement, body position, standing, sitting down, driving in a car, going to work, whatever it may be that seems to increase your symptoms. Our job is to teach the brain that those things are not dangerous. When the brain gets the message and reads the memo, it can turn off the symptoms. So the deal here is understanding what's going on, how this stuff kind of works, and making a decision to make your dominant thoughts be teaching your brain that you're actually okay, that you're actually safe. So I hope all this stuff makes sense. I'm going to wrap this one up. Been yabbering on a little bit long on this one. And hope this helps. Love you all. And as usual, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.